Welcome to You Got This podcast with Patrice Schaffer. I'm so glad you're here. Today's episode is going to be one for the books. We are going to talk about the complexities of being an evolving woman in a fast-paced world. Woo, child, that's a mouthful. Let's talk about the multiple roles that women serve in. How do you balance that while embracing personal growth as well as self-acceptance? Sounds like this is the episode you can't miss. I'm going to talk to you about strategies and tips and insight that will empower you along your journey. Listen, do not miss out. Stay tuned to You Got This podcast. Welcome back, you guys, to You Got This podcast. I'm your host, Patrice Schaffer. I'm so glad that you're here. Listen, today's episode is for me. I feel like we should already start with like testimony service. Who has a testimony that just today you've been struggling with balancing your roles, the multiple roles of being a woman? I'm telling you, trying to record, getting kids to school, all the things, the meetings, all of the things that are going on. If you're just tuning in, if you're brand new here, I am so glad that you're here. I want you to like, share, and subscribe. I'm telling you, this is a place where we uplift women. We empower you and we give you tools and tips and share our journey with you because we just believe that community is the way to go. And so I'm so glad that you are here. Today, you guys, I am getting ready to head off to Honduras. Oh, so excited. I'm going to keep you posted on all the things. My husband, Theo, and I are getting ready to go to Honduras. We are actually going to host a pastor's conference there along with a mission trip aspect. So we'll be there for about a week or so. And we're going to be going to minister to pastors and their families and their children. Just doing what we love, but spreading love and hope for the name of Jesus. And so I want to put up a link here if you're on YouTube that you can donate if you want to be a part of that. We are going to minister to over 75 pastors and their families. And so we're just thrilled to be going. There's a lot of things that we still need to purchase, so I still need your help. So if you can click the link below, I'll put it in the comments. And then also for the podcast, I'll put it in the comments for you guys too, so you can know how to be a part and how to give to that. I cannot wait to show you the impact of your gift. I cannot wait to go back and visit. We're going to go see Maurice, who's one of the pastors I met last year. He is phenomenal. I can't wait for Theo to meet him. He probably is the Honduran version of Theo. So, you know, like your girl's going to be recording that because I want you guys to see when they get together. Also, I cannot wait to see Pastor Dulcie. Again, she is such a joy and just a love. I know I'm naming people and you have no idea who I'm talking about, but I'm going to share them with you, I promise. So stay tuned. Make sure if you're on YouTube, hit that bell so when I upload the things, you won't miss it. For all my other people, all my other audience members that are on different platforms, go to YouTube right now. Find me at youtube.com/@Pastor Patrice Schaffer. Okay. Or you can just search my name. I'm coming up. Your girl is big time, man. But search. And so you can find all the things and hit the bell to subscribe so you don't miss anything. Anyway, let's move on. That's enough for, I guess, today's announcements. So today we're talking about literally navigating growth and transition, right? That's our whole season. And so today we're going to focus on the evolving woman. How do you navigate the complexities of being an evolved woman in a fast-paced world? What are you talking about, Patrice? We're looking at literally, again, how are we balancing these multiple roles? You know, we have kids, we have husbands, we have friends, we have all the things and the relationships where we have to show up differently. But then in addition to those relationships, there's work, there's church, there's whatever your extracurricular or recreational activities are. Like there's so many things that you're showing up for. And then how do you also love yourself well, right? So from balancing all of those multiple roles to embracing personal growth, and then let's talk about self-acceptance. All right. So let's just jump right in on the balancing multiple roles piece. I want to look at exploring the societal expectations and pressures that are placed on women to do it all. Do you feel like that's your testimony? Like, no matter how much you're already doing or how long your to-do list already is, that the rest of the world feels like you can do more. And I think that there is this dichotomy between you don't have to be the superwoman, but you're putting things on my to-do list like I am superwoman. And so as women, we really have a hard time in trying to figure out where is the balance between not just saying no, but also this idea of my family needs me, or, you know, my job needs me, or whatever the case is. Because I think I found it even in myself, where I literally get to this place where I like convince myself or talk, you know, hype myself up like people need me. Like, if you don't do it, nobody else can. Woo woo, superhero in the room. But then also it's on the other end, just that realistically, you are still human and you cannot do it all. So finding the balance of not just the expectations of society, but also your own personal expectations. Like, for many of us, we don't understand when we've reached our limit until we are literally broke down, right? In the bed, near depression, or really sick, because your body knows when you need a break. And when your immune system starts breaking down, you start getting sick like that. All those things work together. It's not just that, oh my God, my kids are so nasty and now I got their cold. No, it's literally like your body trying to tell you, you need to sit down, sis. You need to take a break. But how do we do that well? Right? How do we come to this place where it's like, okay, I cannot do everything. In my mind, I know that, but in reality, I'm not walking that out. I'm not living that out. Right? You know how you guys like to say, that's not my truth. But how do I really get to a point to where I'm okay with, I can't go to everything. I can't, and I'm not even, don't get me wrong, I'm not even talking Christian living yet. Okay. I'm just saying, realistically, girl, you're tired. You need a nap. You can't go, you know, play with your friends today. You need a nap, like, for real. And then just relinquishing this idea or letting go of this idea that you have to push through. You have to keep going. I think also as Black women, it is our culture for us to feel these things, to feel tired, to feel sad, to feel depressed, to feel angry, all the things. And we keep pushing through those emotions. And what that does is it literally dulls the emotions to where we think of like a bulldozer, right? A bulldozer is not like a nice cuddly bunny. If you see a bulldozer, it's coming to do business, right? It's not just like, oh, let me just, you know, kind of, no, a bulldozer is literally like coming to ram and knock down whatever is in its way, pick it up, throw it away. So how much, I mean, I think that as Black women, that's kind of the approach that we take to providing for our family, to being there for our family members, our friends, and all the other people, being there at work, because, you know, we already have this societal expectation and this idea that as a Black woman in America, you have to work a million times harder, you know, just to be the equivalent of your counterpart that may not look like you, or whatever the case is. That's not what the podcast is about. I'm just saying, for example. So if we already have that mindset, it's hard for us to say, you know what, I'm tired. I need a mental health day, right? I need to take some time away because I'm not being as nice to my children. I am snapping, you know, at my husband, or I'm snapping at a friend, or whatever the case is. I all of a sudden do not like people, even though we know you're not a people person. Hello, no people in the room. We know you're not a people person, but you can just tell the difference. And so we have to be able to not only be aware of that feeling, but also do something about it. Like, I can't just know that I'm at my wit's end and I do nothing. Right? So then we have to really look at prioritizing and managing those multiple roles. I think that there are conversations out there today that discuss, for women especially, that this idea of balance is a myth. Like, it is unachievable. It's unattainable. I would argue with that. I think that we have to strive for balance as Christian women. I believe that the scriptures, when Jesus is talking throughout the context of the Synoptic Gospels, he is sharing with us the concept that we have to find balance, right? In everything that he's doing. That's why the scriptures say, don't be so spiritually minded that you're no earthly good. It's like finding the balance between understanding that, yes, I am a kingdom citizen. I am a citizen of heaven. But right now, I'm also a citizen of this earth. And how do I manage that? How do I balance that? How do I become all things to all men, but also not relinquish or not lose who God has created me to be? Right? And who I'm supposed to show up as. And so I think that the entire gospel is an illustration of finding that balance, like the same way that Jesus was 100% God, in that he was able to, do all the things through the power of God's Spirit, with healing the sick, raising the dead, casting out demons. But also he was human, 100% man, when he cries about his friend dying, when he cries about the unbelief, when he's upset with the disciples because, you can't pray for 1 hour? Like, what's going on here? Get up. I think we have to find balance. And so in finding balance, yes, you do prioritize and yes, you do manage. But I think because as women, we hold so many different, my home might just fail. Ain't that wild? Okay. So going back to prioritizing and managing multiple roles effectively, like it's this idea of not just knowing that I need to take a break or whatever the case is, but it's going back to, like I said, with the scriptures, really creating this idea of balance. And in order to do that, you have to have your priorities. You have to have those things that you value. So for example, something that is important for me is, like, I really am adamant about us having family dinner and sitting down together at the table to have conversation, right? But the reality is, because of my schedule, we're not able to do that every night. And so I have to make the adjustment with my expectation, right? I have to manage the expectation, but then also, if that is a priority for me, if sitting down together as a family for dinner is a priority for me, then I have to also adjust the schedule accordingly. So for example, so let's say, Tuesdays and Thursdays are our family dinner nights. So that means that I have to make sure that I manage my schedule well on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and that family dinner time becomes sacerdotal. So that literally means that I not just say I want to do it, but I have to prioritize it. So no, I'm not available for a meeting with you on Tuesdays or Thursday nights at this time, because this is important to me. And it's in those things that we begin to find balance, right? So it's also in one of the things that I do with Riley is we have Mother-Daughter Day, right? And so we put that on the schedule. And we make sure that this is the day, just like you do for any other appointment, just like you do for anything else in your life that is of importance, you make the time, you make the adjustment. And the reality is, you guys, we make time for what we want to do. Okay. Now, we also have to be mindful of the season changing. We have to be mindful of the growth of the things that are happening in life. So again, there may be a season where we're not able to sit at the table per se for dinner, but we make sure that we're eating dinner together. We're having conversations. So for example, I think Tuesdays and Thursdays are still at times, but there was a time where we had a lot going on. And so we're going to have dinner in this car and we're going to have conversation, right? It's still the same essence of what I want or what I'm looking for, but I'm not married to necessarily the method of how we do it, right? But making sure that the message and everything still remains the same. And so I think that brings me to my next point of embracing flexibility. You've got to be flexible when you're talking about balance, because if you look at a balance beam, if you're looking at even the scales, you have to be okay with shifting things around. Right. And that's where the flexibility comes. Also, as women, we have to have self-compassion. We are so hard on ourselves, even though, you broke your arm and your leg fell off and you're still like, well, I'm Superwoman. I need to be able to do it. Like, no, sis, you literally have no leg. It's fine. and having self-compassion in the face of those inevitable changes and challenges. So for example, you cannot plan for death, right? Like as much as you plan, as much as you want to, you can't plan for it. And then you don't know how you're going to show up emotionally. And so being compassionate when there are inevitable changes, when there are things that happen. I mean, something that always happens that I think it frustrates me, but also is like, hey, this is a part of life. Like when the kids get sick on the days that you have like, I had this schedule. It was good. It was down to a T, right? But then a kid gets sick and it's like, well, schedule out the door because, I can't drive around my kid sick in the car, whatever. But I think it is, again, prioritizing and managing the multiple roles effectively. Like we talked about on role clarity some seasons ago, that is your role will shift based upon the season that you're in. So my children don't need me to show up as the mom that I was when they were babies, right? And that adjusts, that shifts. Even in my marriage, as we both have evolved and as we both have grown and our marriage has grown, that role looks different, right? I'm going to tell you, we're getting ready to go on like 14. Theo says 15. You guys, whatever. You already know he wants to be older, all the things. 14 years of marriage this year. And because we've evolved, because our communication and all the things, the way I show up as a wife is not the same that I showed up in year 2. And so it's just that's just the reality. The way you show up at work is different. When you're trying to get a promotion, when you're trying to get to the next level, yeah, you may be there all the time and, whatever. But then when life shifts and you're needed elsewhere, you make the adjustment. And I don't think that, and some people communicate that not necessarily as balance because you're giving a different percentage to each place. But I think it's semantics, really, because again, going back to Jesus, because that's who we're mimicking, that's who we're trying to emulate in life. Looking at Jesus was able to find balance and manage that well. But I think a part of balance, we feel like balance is the same percentage, right? So like if you have life, balance is being able to make a perfect circle around a perfect circle based upon how you measure up or how you show up. But I also think that that's how balance may look on paper. But realistically, for example, if my career is weighing more in this season, I may have to move it from this side of the scale to the other side and shift some other smaller things. It's not to say, that anything's getting any less percentage. It's just that right now this is weighing more in this area. And so I have to change my schedule. I have to be flexible. I have to make the necessary adjustments. And then again, having self-compassion, like being gentle with yourself, being gracious with yourself. You have a schedule and today it just didn't work out. It's not necessarily that you are a terrible person or that the schedule was so terrible. Today it just didn't work, right? So we make the adjustment, or we say, you know what, tomorrow's going to be a better day. I'm going to plan better at night so that I'll be ready for in the morning. One of the hardest things to do for me personally is when I have like a big day coming up and I think I'm about to decide what I'm going to wear the day of. Every time without fail, your girl has a semi meltdown on the outfit because the outfit I thought I was going to wear, it's not showing up well, right? It's got me looking like who did it and why. So then because my morning starts that way, the rest of the day follows suit because I have a hard time pulling myself like, it's fine, the outfit was fine. And what was funny is the same thing happened to Riley actually the other day, getting ready for school. But we talked about the importance of if you have a big day coming up, you have to make preparation because there's a big day coming up. And so that may mean something as simple as, you get your clothes ready at night. You try on that new outfit, honey, because I'm telling you, it's cute, but it might not be cute when you get it on. Or it might be cute, but you need a safety pin here, you need some tape there, whatever. So another thing I'm thinking about in balancing the roles, in addition to planning better, again, prioritizing your self-care. You cannot pour from an empty cup. I don't care how strong you are. I don't care how great you are. You are amazing and you are wonderful and you are beautiful. But if your cup is empty, you cannot pour. That's for anybody. You cannot pour from an empty place. And then also setting boundaries. That goes back to the prioritizing. You have to set the appropriate boundaries because that is for protection for you. That is so that you do not burn out. That is so that you are mentally healthy and well, and all the things. And another thing while we're talking about the boundaries, you have to really be honest with yourself. And if there is, if therapy is needed, listen, everybody in therapy now, it ain't even no negative stigma anymore. Like, let's get the help that we need so that we can do well and be well. There's no point in us trying to be these amazing Christians, and there are areas in your life that is not submitted to the Lord. Right? I want to be able to submit. And that's what the Lord requests from us. That's what Paul talks about, yielding your members. The same way that you yielded your members to the enemy when you were unsaved, we are to yield our members as instruments unto the Lord. And so that means that if I yield my members, the Lord has access to every part of me. But there are some parts in our past that we won't even access. And so how can I yield, or how can I give over to the Lord something that I won't even talk about? Something that I can't even, I'm so far removed, I've literally blocked it out of my life like it never happened. And so I'm not faulting you in that, because that is a survival instinct, right? Our mind literally goes into survival mode. In order for you to survive, in order for you to keep going, you have to forget it. Also, going back to the bulldozer analogy before, that's what we do. We just keep going through, right? And it's like, I'll be fine. Just keep going. Eventually I'll forget it. But it's really making sure that we are well, because if you're not, it will continue to show up in every aspect of your life. The next thing is delegating tasks. I tell new moms this all the time as well. You have carried this baby for 9 months. Please let the daddy feed it. Like, dad can handle a bottle. Dad can handle changing a diaper. Like, there are things that you can delegate. And also in delegating, especially as wives, as friends, whatever the case is, if you're delegating a task, be upfront about your expectations and how you want it done. So the person that you're giving the task to can measure up appropriately. And then also you have to come to the realization and the reality that it's not you doing it. So it may not look the same as if you did it. It may not feel the same, or whatever the case is. But if you communicate adequately, you have to allow that person to also impart or input their own creative spin or their own personality, because you also want your family members and your friends to feel empowered to support you. People do not support people that think they got it all together. And so we have this thing like, check on your strong friends. Well, problem is, strong friend, is that you never let anybody know that you need checking on. So we assume you're always well. Now, is that a right assumption? Is that a fair assumption? No. But as the strong friend, you also have to be intentional about letting your circle, or letting your spouse, or letting whoever, your support system, know, hey, I'm in need of, I need a little hug too. Like, can we just hug me? Can we, whatever the case is. But people are not apt to supporting or even knowing that you need support if you are not intentional about expressing the need, or also expressing that you are human. And I mean, I get that a lot, like this whole superhuman thing, and this a lot, right? And there are days where I'm like, I'm peopled out. Like, what's the girl name from the Christie show? I'm peopled out. Like, I'm good with not seeing nobody for the next 60 days. Like, and it's just that way. But I've also had to work at being intentional. Even with our pastoral staff, I was telling them the other day, I am sick of church people. Yeah, pastors say that. Like, I'm tired of the people we pastor. Help us, Lord. Also, I'm not the first person to experience that. You may not have heard me say that, But I think we have to be intentional about sharing ourselves. And because not only is that a way for people to know how to show up for us and to support us, but it also helps us to get closer because there's a level of vulnerability and honesty that we just don't share with others. And so again, as a strong friend, talking to my strong friends, you have to be intentional. When you feel weak, you have to be intentional about calling that friend that you feel safe with, or letting your husband in, or letting your spouse or whatever that you feel safe with in those moments. Like, I'm about to cry. Oh my gosh, let me make sure I call somebody. Right? Like let me, I feel this kind of way. Let me make sure that I reach out because I want you to know, yes, I'm strong, but I also have those moments too. Right? Also, we have to practice time management. Hello. We have to practice time management. Some of the time, we are feeling off balance because we're not balancing our time. We're not managing our time well. So that means we have to become more organized, right? If a sporadic lifestyle is stressing you out, you know what is wrong? You need a schedule. You don't like... You can be spontaneous, but you need a schedule. And I am a big planner, so I'm not saying, schedule every moment of the day. At 12:05, eat a piece of lettuce, and at 12:10, swallow. That's all I'm saying. If it take you 5 minutes to chew and swallow, I'm sorry. That's not what I'm saying. Stay on track. What I'm saying is that you have to make sure that you have, you know you better than I know you. And so if you need blocks, scheduled blocking, right? So at the Montessori school, for example, they have working blocks. So let's say they get to school at 9:15. They have circle time where the kids come and they have community time from 9:15 to 9:30. Between 9:30 and 11:30, that is the morning work cycle, right? So that is where we're doing all of our lessons, all of our planning, all the things that deal with work in that block. And so maybe as adults, we need to adapt that. I know for those that are working from home or working remotely, making sure you have a schedule, number one, and especially for entrepreneurs, making sure you have a schedule so that this concept of I gotta work 24/7 to make it happen, you're going to die because you are designed for that. And that is a great formula for burnout. So you have to say, okay, what are my working hours? If my working hours are 9 to 5, then okay, that's 9 to 5. Now, depending on the nature of my work, if I need to be on call or if I need to be available, then yeah, I understand that. But this idea of I need to respond to this email that came through and they're talking, no, you don't. You can respond to that tomorrow because you know what happens? And I say this all the time for those of us who are working 9 to 5s and the reality is, as entrepreneurs, we have to know this too. The reality is if something happens to you in your job or outside of your job or whatever the case is, they are simply going to hire someone else to do your job. They're not going to say, oh my gosh, Patrice is such a good worker. We should just keep her job until she feels better. No, because the work has to be done. And so if I can't get my job done, if my FMLA and all the things, we have all the things to help us keep our jobs. But the reality is, if something happens to you, if you are no longer able to go to work, they are going to replace you. And so that means I have to make sure that I am taking care of me. And that's in every aspect of my life, making sure that I am taking care of me. As entrepreneurs, there is someone else, maybe they can't do it the way that you're doing it, maybe they don't do it as well as you do it, but there's somebody else that can do it. All right. And so you have to outsource some of the things that you're doing. And I know money may be cheap, money may be short. But maybe you got a friend that can do graphic design. Maybe you have a friend that can help you administratively. Maybe you have a friend that's better at planning than you are. Pull them in. You don't. Everybody ain't trying to get a paycheck. Sometimes you do have people who want to help you, but because you're so strong and so in your bubble, we don't know how to show up for you. And so again, we're talking about the evolving woman. The evolving woman is not just growing independently of her in and of herself, but she also knows how to utilize the resources around her. Not using people, okay? Utilizing. So there is a friend that is really good in this area. Yes, I'm going to ask my friend to help me. Absolutely, I'm not going to learn how to do it. My friend knows how to do it. I'm going to ask my friend to help me do it. Right? And so also in setting realistic goals, we have to, we learned about SMART goals. We talked about this last week with Danica. We learned about SMART goals, setting realistic goals about where you want to go next. No, you're not going to buy a house next year if your credit is shot this year. So let the goal be, okay, by the end of the year, I want my credit to get here. What things do I need to do to get there now? Right? Do I need to be paying the minimum payment on my credit cards? Or do I really need to be focused on paying that off? At least up to only leaving 30% of debt on there. I've got to do the research. I've got to get the information so that I can show up well and not be disappointed at the end of the year when I don't meet that goal, especially if it's a realistic goal. Also, we've got to embrace personal growth as we're evolving. What do you mean? So we talked about balancing, and that was a whole big thing, right? So we've got to embrace personal growth, which means I have to cultivate self-awareness. I have to reflect on my personal values because that's going to help me in the balancing and the prioritizing. But I also have to be realistic about what are my strengths and what are my weaknesses. That's the only way I'm going to be able to employ the help or delegate tasks to other people if I am honest about what I do well and what I do not do well. And making sure that I am aware in saying, hey, I got really upset when, Ace did this to me. And so maybe that's an area that needs to be discussed in therapy. If the same stuff keeps showing up in my relationships, you know what? Everybody's not crazy. Now, a lot of people are. Don't get me wrong. A lot of people are. But there's a chance that there's something there that there is a possibility that some of this stuff I am provoking, I am bringing upon myself, or I innately, when we come from traumatic experiences, as much as we don't want to admit this, when we come from traumatic experiences, usually, if you don't become the aggressor or whatever that trauma was, you seek out the same kind of person. And yeah, they may not look the same and they might, you may not experience them the same initially, but I'm telling you, it is the trauma that is drawn to that, because when you live in trauma for so long, that becomes comfort to you. We've experienced this in our marriage where, for example, Thea was so used to chaos and just a chaotic lifestyle that this idea of a happy marriage, and this is early in a marriage, this idea of a happy marriage and stability was abnormal to him. And so you began to self-sabotage. You start making up problems. You start creating problems. You start, burning your own house down because you don't have no drama. That is trauma. And as Christians, yes, we can pray through that and we can talk to the Lord about it. And I encourage you to be vulnerable with the Lord, tell him all your troubles, all the things. But we also need some licensed help in this world, not just as if they're going to heal us. No, because only God can heal. But what happens is you need somebody else to talk to that can help you to navigate those emotions and also navigate those experiences to be able to identify, hey, this is a trigger, or hey, this is something that you learned over here that's not a good trait, right? And again, you don't have to go, I'm a big advocate for therapy. I think the whole world needed it at this point. But if therapy is not your thing, that's fine. You need to find somebody that you're honest with that can actually deposit into your life. Not somebody that's oh, girl, I would have did this too. There are times where we can do that, but there are also times where I need my friend to say, no, you're wrong. There's something going on here and we need to talk to somebody. And the reality is sometimes we need psychological assistance. We need maybe even all the things, okay? Sometimes you do. And we've got to, in this quest for self-acceptance and personal growth, we've got to practice gratitude and celebrate the small victories. I don't think as women we do a good job of that. Not all, I just would say the majority. I think for the majority of us, we are so busy pursuing next and getting to the next thing that we almost forget, hey, but this is a win. Like, and this win, a lot of little wins is what actually wins the battle. You don't win the battle just because you have a big fight at the end. No, a lot of little wins contribute to the overall win of the battle. And so along your personal journey, whether it's spiritual growth, like, I'm straight up praying more consistently than I've ever prayed in my life. That's a win. Let's celebrate that. Girl, let's get a cookie. I mean, whatever your reward system looks like, right? We do the same thing when we go to exercising and we lose weight. We give ourselves some kind of reward. Many times, and they say people who have a reward system tend to lose weight faster and more efficiently, and they keep it off because there's a reward system that is attached to that. So if I say, you know what, if you lose 10 pounds, in this month or whatever, well, that's probably not a healthy. Yeah. If you can do 2 pounds a week, maybe 2.5 a week, then you can manage up to 10 at least. And so then at the end of the month, if I do that well, then I'll be able to go buy, this nice purse or this nice skirt or whatever. You know who gonna work out? Your girl, because I want that purse, because I want that. And that's the same way when it comes to celebrating those small wins and just really understanding and personal growth. Like, man, I really used to like snap on people that would talk to me like that. And I'm just, thank you, Lord, I'm just doing well, And for my cussing Christians, made the decision that I'm not going to be cussing. I don't need the Holy Ghost to help me with that. I am grown and I know how to contain my mouth, right? It ain't like you got Tourette's. You don't be cussing out. I'm just going to come all the way out of that. I felt me go and I don't want to go there. I'm just saying, make the decision to do better. And upon doing better, let's reward ourselves and celebrate those small victories. Also, we've got to embrace this concept of really walking out who God has called us to be. And this is where I'm getting ready to end the podcast today, is sometimes we are so engulfed with the idea of trying to become her. And I don't mean her like the singer, like H-E-R. I mean like her, like you it girl, you the woman. Okay? We get so busy trying to become this idea of who we think we are that we miss the idea that you are already her. I was in a leadership conference, capacity conference in Atlanta with Bishop Bronner, and he had Bishop T.D. Jakes there. You guys, leave the scandal, leave all the things where it is. Let's just focus on the quote that the man said. Okay, let's leave all the things where they are. But so one of the questions that Theo asked was, if you could go back in time and tell yourself anything, like let's say you go back, and he was asking this question to Bishop Jakes. It was a question and answer session. And he was like, if you could go back and ask yourself anything, or tell yourself anything, like your younger self, let's say you're 25 or whatever the case is, what would you say? What would you tell him? And so Bishop Jakes said one of the most profound things I think that has literally changed my life and just how I pursue life. I think I almost got emotional right there. Wow. But I'm just thinking about, like, just for real, when you hear this quote and when you like just hold on to it, it changes the way you show up for real. And so he said, if I could go back and tell my 25-year-old self anything, I would tell him that you are T.D. Jakes. The Bishop T.D. Jakes that is coming, that you're looking for, or that people know today, you're him right now. Already, right? Already, you are that. You are him already. And so I think it is also understanding for us that as we're on this quest for, like, God, who am I? Why am I here? And I think when we ask that, we're asking for big picture, for end result. Who am I? And that's fine. I understand that. And God will reveal, the Bible says we know in part. So God will reveal that to us. But it's also that instead of pursuing this more anointed, this more refined and this more seasoned version of myself, right? This more called and more chosen version of myself. No, it's you are already the solution to a need right now. You just don't know it, right? Like you are already, you don't get more anointed than you are right now. You begin to understand it more, you begin to embrace it more, you begin to walk it out more, which in terms makes you feel like it's more effective, but that's not really what it is. It's really that if I embrace that who God has called me to be, whatever she looks like, whatever the picture is that you have of her, I'm her right now. I'm her. Okay. I'm not trying to become her. I'm not looking for her. I'm her right now. And then as I become more yielded to God and walking that out, you will see her yourself even better. Like it's this idea that I read a book, Unleashing the Power Within. And we go through life trying to achieve more faith. But the Bible says that if you have a measure of faith that's already been given to you, it's already been deposited into you. And so the quest is not necessarily growing your faith. The quest is, that's what we coin it, right? Because we're trying to understand it. But the quest is not me growing my faith. The quest is me actually understanding who I am and who he is. Thus, my faith is free, come on, to do what it does. But while I'm chasing who he's called me to be, my faith is like literally tied up. It's almost like it's in bondage, right? My faith is held captive. So I can't see things happen, or I can't see things take place that I'm supposed to be seeing. I can't evolve or grow in these areas because I am holding me back in pursuit of who I think I am, as opposed to embracing who I am, right? Embracing all of that, understanding that, sis, if you didn't go through that traumatic experience, like, yeah, we already talked about therapy, we're going to get us some. But the reality is you wouldn't be as resilient as you are if you didn't come out of that bad relationship. You would not be as determined as you are if you hadn't have gone through that terrible, tragedy in your youth. You would not be as good of a leader today if you had not experienced that bad leadership. I know we herald on church hurt, and I know we keep that real close to the vest, and we use that sometimes as an excuse for not giving ourselves in church and not doing well, or whatever the case is. But if you take an opportunity to look at that experience, I guarantee you can identify positives in that area. Identify, you know what? I did learn more about me. I found my voice in the middle of that church hurt. I found out who I was in the middle of that. And so that's why the scriptures say in Romans 8:28 that all things work together for good to them that are the called. So understanding that literally that's how all things are working together for my good is that God is able to not only in the midst of the tragedy and all the things, but there are good things that come out of that. Now, if that is true, then that means that everything that has happened to me is not necessarily shaping me to be who he's called me to be, but it's helping me to take off everything that's not necessary, right? That I've taken on, because we're spiritual beings first. And so it's helping me to take off, because if you're going to be a global evangelist, people going to be doing exposés on you. So you got to get your life clean. Come on. So it's not me trying to become who he's called me to be. I've got to learn. I've got to identify who it is or what it is that God has called me to do. And it may not be big picture. It may be in this season. This is how he's calling me to show up. He's calling me to show up as a great mom in this season. So you know what I'm going to do? Everything that hinders me from being a great mom, it's got to go. So if this relationship is taking away from it, bye. My career is hindering me from being a great mom in this season. Hello, can I go to part-time? Can we make an adjustment? Let's look at my schedule. Whatever the case is, and it's really being able to remember that right now, you are her.
You are.
You're her right now. You're not.
Stop
trying to pursue a different version of yourself.
Embrace who you are right now and walk it out. in
in
pursuing,
pursuing who we want to be, we stop walking out who we are.
Right?
Right? So let me ask you this question, and I want you to share this in the chat. I want you to leave this in the comments so we can talk about it. What is one practical tip or strategy that stuck out to you today that we talked about? And then number 2, what is something helpful that you've used in your own life, whether it's in your career, your family life, your relationships, or personal pursuits? I want you to share your insight in the chat, and let's learn from each other's experiences. So once again, what's one practical tip or strategy that we talked about today that stuck out to you? And what's one tip or strategy that you've used yourself that maybe we didn't talk about today, but hey, I found this helpful and this is something that I do and it works. I want you to list things that work, not necessarily things that don't work. We want the tried and true things because we want to keep evolving. So today we've talked about self-acceptance. We talked about embracing personal growth. And our biggest thing we've talked about is balancing those multiple roles. Girl, felt like therapy to me. I don't know about you. All right. So I'm getting ready to leave, but I want to remind you that you need to like, share, and subscribe. If you're on the podcast platforms, make sure you leave a comment, give us stars, 5 stars. Let them know. When you do that, it tells other people, hey, this is good. You need to hear this. But I want to empower women. I want women to know really who they are, not just in God, but in this world. I want women to feel uplifted and empowered and equipped for the things that we're trying to do. And most importantly, I want you to remember that if you don't remember nothing else that we've talked about today, I want you to remember that you've got this. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's in your job. I don't care if it's finances. I don't care if it is mental. I don't care if it is I was going to say psychological. I don't care if it's in managing your children and parenting or in your wifehood or in your marriage, whatever it is, wherever it is. Listen, you've got this and we've got your back. I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast episode. I look forward to talking to you again soon. Until then, deuces.